I was living with my grandma, and the first day of school, she actually didn't pick me up. I called my uncle and I was like, hey, like grandma hasn't come yet.
Hey everyone, this is Rick, and welcome back to the Seed the Startup Journey, the entrepreneurship podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing founders and their companies in under 20 minutes. Today, we'll be chatting with the founder of Alzheimer's Brainbox, Victoria da Conceicao. Victoria started her company when she was 16. She was looking for a way to help her grandmother, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She found that coloring pages and essential oils could help make her grandma happy while improving her quality of life. She decided to turn those into custom care packages and launched her company to help others. Now, before we begin, a lot of my viewers aren't actually subscribed. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button right now, and if by the end of this video you didn't like our content, just press it again to unsubscribe. Easy enough? Let's get to it. Hey Victoria, thank you so much for coming on today. To start us off, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your company, Alzheimer's Brainbox?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rick. So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, and right now I'm studying at Northwestern in Illinois. I started my company when I was 16, Alzheimer's Brainbox. I make custom care packages for Alzheimer's patients. And the way I customize them is I send out a Google form and I ask for photos of the patient's lives to turn into coloring books. And just recently I started doing writing prompts. So I ask in the form, like, oh, what do they call home? It can be a place or an activity. And I turn those into writing prompts.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so you mentioned that you started when you were 16. And I recently also had two other guests come onto my podcast and they were 15 and starting businesses as well. So that just makes me think like, wow, like what was I doing back in high school? But could you kind of like tell me and share with us a little bit about how you got started? Like what was the origin story behind this idea?
Yeah, so my first year of high school, I went to Granite Bay High School, the public school near my parents' house. And then I moved to the Bay Area with my grandma because I grew up always living like 15 minutes away from her. I really missed her. So I found a school by her and I said, Mom, Dad, I really want to go to the school so I can, live with grandma. And I went, Tilden Prep. And something that was really special about that school is I met kids who were just very unique and very passionate about specific things. Like my friend Luke David was like always talking about theoretical physics. I was living with my grandma and the first day of school, she actually didn't pick me up. The school was in an area where she knew really well, but she got lost. It took her like an hour and a half. So in that time, I got pretty worried. I called my uncle and I was like, hey, like grandma hasn't come yet. Do you know, are you with her? Did you guys forget about me? Like my uncle's like, no, I'm not with her. So he came to help me find her. And we actually found her across the street in the park right there, wandering, like kind of like just really disoriented. Like that was kind of the first warning sign. I think everyone in my family was just kind of like, okay, it's a one-time thing. Like, things happen. Let's not worry about it. But then like other little things started happening. Like she would always leave her wallet in the store shopping cart. So we'd always have to like go back and look for it. And then like one time the car keys were in the freezer. Like I opened it for ice cream and I saw the car keys and I was like, okay, like something's clearly going on here. So I called my mom. My grandma on my mom's side of the family were Mexican. And at least for us, like we're also Catholic. So there's this idea of like, oh, just pray about it. Like it's fine. Like, but I was like, okay, but like, I think she should see a doctor too. Eventually she saw her primary care physician for like a checkup and the doctor realized she wasn't taking her insulin, despite taking the medicine pretty much her whole life. So that's how they knew, okay, like there are some memory issues here. We don't know exactly what. I was living alone with my grandma. So it was kind of my job to like step up and learn about Alzheimer's and, learn what the medications do and when to give them to her. So I was kind of just like thrown into the Alzheimer's world. And before that, I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's other than, you forget things. I was pretty misinformed. I didn't realize how serious it was. When my grandma got the diagnosis, she had her car taken away, or her license. And that made her feel it made it feel very real because even though the symptoms weren't always, it was like she'd lost this huge freedom. She got pretty depressed. Like she was definitely very down, like kind of like stopped going on walks. She would just stay at home. I turned to the internet and I started looking on blogs, like just to see what people were saying helped their loved ones. And something that came up a lot was coloring, puzzles, and essential oils. And I thought, okay, I'll order these things on Amazon, see if she likes them. And she did. She liked coloring with me. It was fun. not just because coloring is relaxing, but because it's a nice way to like just like chit chat with people. She would tell me stories about her life in Mexico for when she was really little. Sometimes she would like go get pictures out and show me. And I thought, okay, what if I can combine those two things that bring her joy into something I can make for her? I thought, okay, the pictures and the coloring. Let's make a personalized coloring book. And I did that. Then I realized I could do that for other people. And maybe it would, I thought, okay, well, help my grandma, maybe it'll make other people happy too.
Were you thinking that you're going to be an entrepreneur? Like, were you thinking this is going to be a business, or were you solely thinking of doing something to help your grandmother?
I just started it for my grandma, and then I thought of it as like maybe a project. I was like, oh, maybe like I can sell some boxes like here and there before I go to college, raise some awareness, maybe some like money to donate. I did not consider myself an entrepreneur. But then like things kind of changed when I would so I was taking summer classes, and my teacher, Ryan, I'd had him for like a really long time at this point. So we were like we knew each other pretty well. I came to school and I said, Ryan, like, I think I want to start a business. He was really supportive about it and said, that's actually a really good idea. You should do that. And so, yeah, I made a website. I ordered 50 prototype boxes. They arrived. They were really crazy looking. Like the box too big, and the logo was like not in the center. So I learned a valuable lesson: always order a sample box before you order a bunch. But yeah, from there I just started making prototype boxes for the website. And yeah, what really helped was October 2018. I went as a corporate sponsor to the Alzheimer's Association's Walk to End Alzheimer's in Walnut Creek. And I got a booth and I took some brain boxes to donate to people finishing the walk. And I was really surprised by the positive feedback. There's like a huge line of people like waiting to get a box and like talk to me. And at that time I was really shy. So it was like, I definitely had to step out of my comfort zone a bit. But that's the day I realized like, okay, I have something here that has the potential to really make a positive impact on people's lives.
That's awesome. And so talking about, going to the conference and bringing your boxes there, how has your idea kind of evolved from, the very first time when you were just thinking of doing something for your grandma to now where it is? Like, have you gone through any pivots with your idea?
So at first my thought was I would put puzzles as well, because I read that people enjoyed puzzles. And I quickly stopped doing that for a couple of reasons. First, the puzzles were pretty expensive and heavy, which made the shipping like more expensive. And then I realized not everybody has the same ability level. So the puzzles could have offended people by being too easy or too hard. And that's really not something I want. So I just stopped doing that. At first, I was trying to partner with like an essential oil company, but I did not really get any like responses other than like, we talk to your parents. And I was like, no. Which is like, I guess it's fair. But so I was like, okay, I'm going to have to like make my own. And so from there on, I realized, okay, I'm just going to make everything from scratch. Like everything will be Alzheimer's brain box. I'm not going to like partner with any coloring book people or anything. Yeah, but it's been really fun ever since.
Wow. Wait, so you reached out to the essential oils company and they were like, can I speak to your parents basically?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And some just didn't respond. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, like I definitely think being young entrepreneurs, like there's definitely this challenge of being, taken seriously by people, especially maybe like partners or like investors. Are you doing anything to like, address those issues, or are you just kind of, hey, I'm going to do my own if you don't believe me,
Yeah, I definitely realized that was going to be a problem because people would be like, oh, that's such a cute idea. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Like it's not to be cute. It's like, it's a business. And I definitely did realize like certain things I could change to be taken more seriously. Like I addressed my age, like, oh, yes, I'm young, but here's why I'm doing it. And here's how being young actually helps. I think that because I was young, I still had this like idealized version of the world where like you can make things better. And so instead of being like super upset, I mean, I was upset for a while. Like the Alzheimer's diagnosis really was difficult, but I was in the mindset of like, okay, what can I do to make a bad situation a little bit better?
Going right now, you're in Northwestern. What is your kind of vision with Alzheimer's brain box? Like, are you thinking of doing it full time after completing your degree, or maybe even dropping out to pursue it?
Yes. So, well, yes, part of it. I really want to be able to just work for myself after college. I realize that that's a big risk. Like I think about it often because I'm working for like Deloitte right now as a nonprofit student consultant for Deloitte Delivers. And in the summer, I'll be doing an asset management internship. And I'm super grateful for like all of these opportunities because it just gives me so much exposure and I'm meeting some really great people. But I definitely realized I want to work for myself because it's just like there's just more passion, with my work. And I just really want to see this project materialize to the full extent. And I didn't think it would be like super possible. Honestly, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to scale this. But recently I partnered with a hospice group called Yellow Hospice, actually through Northwestern connections. And what we're doing is we're creating a pilot program where we're starting with 50 boxes. But because of that, another group who I haven't officially announced the partnership, but they're at another nursing home with 14 locations in California. And they're interested in a once a week group activity around the brain box. So I'm hoping with partnerships like that, I'll be able to just do this after college.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'd love to see how you progress later as well. But I mean, it sounds like you kind of have it all figured out. I think a lot of people, like when they go through high school or get into college, we don't really know like what we want to do career wise. And even for me, like right now, I'm about to be a rising senior and I still don't really know what I want to do. So do you have any advice? Like how do you navigate through this and really finding, what you want to do?
I try not to think about it too much because I was thinking about it every day. Everything I did, every test score, I was like, oh no, like now I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, Z. I came into Northwestern pre-med because I thought that to help the community, the Alzheimer's community more, I had to be a doctor and do research. I took a chemistry class and I did really badly. Like no matter how much I studied up all night, like I was exhausted, nothing, I would just consistently get C's. And I realized, okay, I've completely neglected my company for the past 3 months, working for a chemistry class that I'm not getting the results I need, to go to medical school. And I thought, okay, should I keep giving it my all and try to improve my grades and get into medical school, or should I just focus on what I'm doing now and figure something else out? And after my friends so nicely listened to me every day, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Should I drop pre-med? What do I do? I finally did it and just wasn't a declared major. I just kind of was taking classes that were interesting. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't have it all figured out. I think that anyone who gives off that impression isn't. I think that we're all figuring stuff out and just have faith it'll work out.
Gotcha. And Victoria, I see that you're featured in many blogs and newsletters, which I think it's a really good way of spreading awareness for your business as well. And I was wondering, how did you go about doing that? Do you have any advice for companies who are just starting and want to also get more exposure for their business?
Yeah, what was helpful for me is I sat down and I was like, okay, what is special about what I'm doing and who I am? So I thought, okay, what is important? What are important parts of my identity? I'm Latina, I have a business, I care about Alzheimer's. So I looked for media that cared about those things. And I reached out to a place called Al Dia News. I said, hi, I see that you write articles about Latinx entrepreneurs. Would you be willing to feature me? I'd be really grateful. And they've said, of course, which was really surprising to me, taught me an important lesson. You don't ask, you don't get. So they wrote an article. I got a lot of positive feedback. That article reposted I think 600 or 700 times just from the website directly. Because of that, other places started reposting it. So US Against Alzheimer's reposted it. Some website, Find a Top Doc, to help you find doctors. And I realized, oh, the press is really, really a powerful skill for new entrepreneurs. Not powerful skill, I guess just tool for your toolkit. And so eventually the AARP, which is one of the biggest political interest groups in the United States with 30 million members, they reached out to me and I was shocked. I was like, wait, is this the same AARP as the one I know? They wrote an article in Spanish. And I used that as an opportunity to really discuss how Latinos are disproportionately affected. I guess the feedback was good for that article. So they reached out again. We made 2 videos in English and Spanish. And those videos got combined on Facebook alone, 400,000 views.
Wow, that's amazing. I can kind of resonate with, just reaching out because, I've had guests that come onto my podcast, which I never dreamed they would even come on. And that's just from reaching out to them. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I know that, starting a company is obviously difficult, right? It could be very stressful at times. And so part of our podcast focus for the next few episodes is on mental health. And I was wondering if you could also share with us, a little bit about your experience with stress and and anxiety as a startup founder as well as, a student?
I think that's a really important thing to talk about. Yeah, I was always like a really anxious kid. Like my mom tells me stories and I'm like, I did that? Like what? The preschool I went to created a half day program for me because I guess halfway through the day, I would like just start crying that I wanted to go home. I don't remember doing that, but I guess I did. And so my mom would have to pick me up halfway through the day. So I guess like I have a lot of experience managing anxiety. It definitely did get worse in high school. Interestingly enough, my company has always been kind of like my happy place. Like it helped me work through a lot. Like especially like with the diagnosis, it was like I got pretty depressed. I was like, wow, like my grandma is suffering and I don't know when she's going to wake up and not remember me. That was a genuine fear of mine. And so I would just work on the brain box at night and it would relax me and I would go to sleep, go to school, repeat. Coming to college, I did have like another like wave of like anxiety and depression actually last December. And I learned then you really have to just reach out. I think that there's a lot of stigma, obviously. It can be challenging to say like, okay, it's time for me to get help. And that doesn't make me weaker. It just means I'm doing what I have to do for myself. And I think people glamorize, like I read all these articles and I found a lot about like how like depression is like part of being an entrepreneur. It doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. Yes, it's very stressful, but it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to burn yourself out. You don't have to work 20 hours a day. Like go to sleep. You're not going to be efficient if you're just wearing yourself out. And that's something I had to learn also. I definitely did that like all throughout high school. And recently I just stopped making meetings in the mornings because I'm like, you know what? If I can't fall asleep the night before, I'm not going to wake up at 8:00 for a meeting.
Yeah. And by reaching out for help, do you mean by, talking to friends or professional, therapists?
I guess both. I guess it depends on your situation too and like the friends you have. So I definitely spoke to my friends about it. And I did see a professional. I did. And it was really helpful. So definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think there's definitely a stigma around that. And I know that the CEO of Morning Brew, Alex Lieberman, also, sees his therapist and he's being like basically telling people it shouldn't be, something that's looked at negatively. Like, you should actually seek help and it helps you think through things as well. And do you have any advice, for someone like me who is still a student, but I'm interested in startups and might want to start something of my own in the future?
My friend Nick actually gave me some really good advice in high school and it was hard to apply to myself because he basically said, stop seeking external validation. And I realized I was doing that, whether it was through grades, the school I went to, or, just various things. And I've learned to just kind of turn that off and focus on, okay, what makes me happy? What makes me feel like I guess just like fulfilled in life. And a big part of that was actually deleting social media. I really suggest that.
Did you delete it for like a year or something and then come back to it? Or are you still not on social?
I still use LinkedIn just because I kind of have to. And it's not like really the same as like an Instagram situation, but I have been so much happier since I deleted Instagram, like probably like a month and a half ago. And I went back on Instagram really briefly because my friend was like, oh, I sent you a video, go look. And I was like, okay. And I noticed my mood just immediately was just different. So yeah, I suggest it. Also, my screen time went down 42%. So
yeah, no, I could definitely see, how the number of likes might get into your head. Even with like a podcast account, I would look at how many likes my posts get. And sometimes I could get upset because, it doesn't have as much of a reach. So yeah, I definitely see the value of just cleaning yourself from this environment. But yeah, so I have a quick game prepared.
Underrated, overrated.
Right. So the first one, meditation.
Underrated.
Do you do it yourself or?
Sometimes my dad like discovered meditation and he's like, it's life-changing. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, cause he would go outside, just like sit down. And I was like, what is he doing? But then I did it. I was like, wait, it's actually kind of helpful.
For sure. The second one, social entrepreneurship.
Underrated.
How about networking events?
Overrated.
Yeah, I don't like them as well. Zoom University.
Underrated. What's been really helpful is actually looking back at videos. Like I'm able to just watch lecture and not worry about taking every note.
For sure. And this one, I guess you kind of mentioned, but LinkedIn.
Underrated if you use it correctly.
What do you mean by that?
What helped me is I enter like a few groups, like the alumni group where I live. And I've they were always just posting interesting articles, and like that kind of stuff is really nice to see.
Sure. Awesome. So this is the last question I have, which is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, my grandma used to always say, el querer es poder, which in Spanish, it's like to want is to do. Like basically, like if you want it, you can get it. I didn't really understand the full meaning of that quote. I kind of was just like, okay, basically you have to have determination. But now that I'm a bit older, I realized, okay, figure out what you actually want. Because like for me, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, right? And I kept trying to like, do chemistry, and I really didn't want that. Looking back, like I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Got it. Yeah, and I love how you have it figured out relatively earlier too. And you're starting your Alzheimer's brain box. Like, I just think it's good to be starting early. It's always good to, even if we fail, we learn a lot from this. So yeah, no, I love what you're doing. And yeah, this is it for the interview. Thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck and stay safe as well.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. My main takeaways from chatting with Victoria is to focus on what makes you happy. Stop seeking external validation and focus on what makes you feel fulfilled. Now, I'll be discussing my takeaways in more detail in a separate episode a few days after this episode is out. So if you're interested, make sure to stay tuned on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Some of you might also notice that I'm in a different setting for this interview, and that's because I'm currently back home in Taiwan, and I'll be stuck in quarantine for 14 days. So I'll use this time to interview more amazing guests. We have some really cool guests lined up. Some are related to bees, movie ratings, and your mind. So be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our future episodes. That's it for today. Make sure to share this with your friends, and let's grow our seed of innovation and creativity together. I'll see you next time.